Hey everyone, this is Peter from Tabletop Gaming Guild, and today I am taking you on part one of a two-part tour of Twilight 2000 by Free League Publishing. Now, it is currently available for purchase on their website, freeleaguepublishing.com, for just under $55. And the boxed core set comes with a ton of stuff, and I'm just going to list it off for you real quick. There's a 152-page player's manual, including rules for character generation, skills, specialities, combat, base building, and travel. There's a 112-page referee's manual describing a world at war and including 52 ready-to-play encounters and 4 complete scenario sites. There's a huge 864 by 558 millimeter double-sided full-color hex travel map, 15 engraved custom dice including ammo dice and a hit location die, 16 modular battle maps designed to create an endless variety of battlefields, 4 battle maps for specific scenario sites, 108 cardboard tokens for fighters, vehicles, conditions, and more, 52 encounter cards, 10 initiative cards, and 5 blank character sheets ready to be filled in. Now, I previously recorded an unboxing of this set, and you can watch it right here on our YouTube channel. Today, however, we are going to scroll through the PDF of the player's manual to get a better feel for how this game is played. So Twilight 2000 was originally published in 1984, and this is its 4th edition. The art on the cover is of a lone soldier, dirty, looking over her shoulder with her rifle in her hand. The mottled greens and browns of her fatigues are dark against the light brown of this paperback manual. Now again, we're looking at a PDF, but in the box, when you get it, this is going to be a paperback manual. The Twilight 2000 title is in a stenciled font below her, and it reminds me of the stenciled lettering that is usually seen on military cargo boxes, so definitely fitting for this game. It is not a flashy cover, it is gritty. The fact that the soldier is alone and looking over her shoulder conveys the right feel of someone in survival mode. As art goes, it's not my favorite Free League Publishing book cover, but it is spot on for the game that it is selling. We're going to open up the book now past the cover to the table of contents and give you a 2-page view. The player's manual is made up of 6 major sections. Section 1 is You're on Your Own Now. Section 2, Player Characters. Section 3, Skills and Specialities. Section 4, Combat and Damage. Section 5, Weapons, Vehicles, and Gear. And Section 6, Travel. Now, as usual, Free League takes the extra step of providing us with a fully linked PDF. Each part of the table of contents can be clicked on, taking us directly to the section we want to read. And again, I only point this out because not everyone who releases their works in PDF takes the extra time to make the table of contents linked. And it just goes to show us again that Free League is thinking about the user experience, and that is always appreciated. I don't understand why anybody would release their products in PDF format without a linked table of contents. It's just it's necessary, I think. And again, I just am grateful that Free League always takes the time to make sure to do that. All right, so now that we have gone over the table of contents, let's go ahead and dive deeper into each section of the player's manual. Section 1, You're on Your Own Now. Here's our 2-page spread. The art, again, in this one is it's just a very different style than most of their previous books. I would say if it's reminiscent of any of their Free League Publishing's books prior to this one, or actually it would be after this one, but I've taken a look at it previously, is the One Ring book that they just brought out. It's a little bit more like that. Less clean and crisp art, more of a kind of a modeled paintbrush style art, where you can really see those lines that the brushes have put down on the page. So section 1, entitled You're on Your Own Now, opens with a page of narrative, and I'm going to give you a view of that. Let me go back into a single page look here. You will definitely want to take a moment and read this piece of narrative because it really kind of gets you into the right mindset of the game's setting. And then the manual is going to go on to explain that most of the people at the table will be player characters, while one person will be the game's referee. And this is no different than most role playing games. The name for the person running the game sometimes seems to change from game to game. In this game, they're called the referee. In other games, maybe they're called the game master or game mother or even dungeon master. Either way, this game is no different. One person will set up the game's scenarios and run the non-player characters or NPCs, and the rest will play the player characters whose stories are the crux of the action. Page 8 here then gives us a great explanation of what the players will be getting up to and what their goals will be. Their goals are going to include just staying alive. This is a game, again, post-war survival. So one of the main goals is just to make it day to day and live. Another goal is maybe to help those in need. Just because you're in a post-war era and you're trying to survive doesn't mean that you should have no moral compass. And so when you come across those people out there in the world who might need help, hopefully your characters will want to step up and help them as well. You're going to be searching for information. If you want to stay alive, you got to keep learning the news and what's going on around the world as best as possible. So you're going to search for information. Try to find a safe haven. Safety in Twilight 2000 is supposed to be something that's rare, but it doesn't mean that you're not looking for it. You're still trying to find those places that have some semblance of order. You're going to want to make your claim or stake your claim once you have found a place that has resources and has some sanctuary. You're going to want to set up a home base. And then maybe you're not from here. Maybe your character is a soldier in a foreign land, and your main goal is to eventually just find your way home. That might be one of the goals as well. And then there's also the last goal, which is to possibly try and reset the world, to get this world back to a time or a place before the war as best as possible, so that people aren't just all the time trying to scrounge for things, but that they can actually start to live beyond that. And so those are the kind of the 7 core goals that they go through for the players playing Twilight 2000. Like I've said, this game is set in a world that has been ravaged by war, and the game says that the referee can set this game wherever they would like, but the focus of the war and the game is Central and Northern Europe, so we are given details and maps to help set the game in and around Poland and Sweden. Though the game's backdrop is the aftermath of World War III, not all players must play military personnel. The book specifically says Twilight 2000 is not a game about the military. It is a game about survivors. Therefore, players may play civilians or law enforcement, prisoners, etc. And yes, you can play a band of soldiers if you want, who somehow lived through the war, and now you just wish to make it home, like we were saying before. Under the header Tools of the game, it is explained that players will be using character sheets to track their character, dice to help them determine the outcomes of an uncertain situation, cards for initiative and encounters, and hex maps for travel and combat scenarios. With all of that information in hand, Section 2 tackles player characters. So let's go ahead and jump to Section 2 then on page 13. Go back to our 2-page view so that we can see the characters here. Looks like a band of soldiers sitting, taking a little bit of a rest. Some of them keeping watch, some of them eating, and just kind of being there around their vehicle. This section, Section 2, is all about the creation of your player character and your unit, the other players in the game. There are 2 ways to make your character in Twilight 2000 by utilizing the archetypes or the life paths. Archetypes is considered the quickest way to get to playing the game, as a character is supposed to be able to be made in minutes, And for this method, you choose an archetype on pages 22 through 30. Real quick, I'm going to jump over there so that you can take a look at the different archetypes that they have available. There's the civilian, the grunt, the gunner, the kid, the mechanic, the medic, the officer, and the operator, and the spook. So those are just the archetypes that you have to choose from when creating your character. Go back to single page view here. Take a look at the next page, which shows us the life paths option. But then we're going to jump back to page 20, which shows us character creation archetypes. So you see here that you have 19 different steps that you would go through for utilizing the archetypes setup for making your character. If you decided that you wanted to use the longer method of the life paths, it just shows here that there's 2 extra steps, but it is a bit longer than the other method, and this process will take you through a series of choices and dice rolls that will simulate your character's backstory and finished with a more fleshed out character. But either way, once your character is complete, they will have 4 base attributes, and we're going to see those attributes on page 15 here of the player's manual. It says here your character has 4 base attributes that indicate your basic physical and mental capabilities, each rated on a scale from A to D. A represents the top human capacity, B is above average, C is your average Jane or Joe, and D is a weakened or diminished ability. You have strength for muscle power, toughness, and physical endurance, agility for body control, speed, and fine motor skills, intelligence for perception, intellect, and mental stability, and empathy for charisma, amiability, and emotional stability. So again, those different attributes are going to be rated from A to D, showing how good you are in those different attributes, A being the highest, D being the lowest for those attributes. And your attributes are used when you roll dice to perform actions in the game, as well as for determining how much damage and stress you can withstand before being incapacitated. When rolling dice, each attribute rating is connected to a specific die type, and we're going to see that on the next page. You see here the attribute scores table where attribute A equals a D12, attribute B is a D10, C is a D8, and D is a D6. And again, you're going to want to get as many of your attributes eventually as high as you can so that you're rolling those bigger dice through the game, because when you roll the dice, you're hoping to get a 6 on the die, and if you're only rolling a D6, your possibility of hitting that 6 is not great. The bigger the die, the better chance you have of hitting a 6 or higher. Now, throughout the game, you will be keeping track of your hit and stress capacity, your skills, specialities, coolness under fire, unit morale, moral code, your big dream. You're also going to be focusing on your buddy, which is another player character you are especially attached to, and you will also have to keep tabs on your gear and your group gear. You can only carry so much, and this is determined by your encumbrance. And section 2 ends with a 2-page section on how your character will develop as you play the game by gaining experience points and XP. I'm going to scroll through these different archetypes again real quick to get towards the end of this section. We're seeing here some of the soldiers and the different countries involved in the game. Here's how you're going to develop your character. It shows here how much XP you need to increase your skill levels. And again, wanting to change your unit morale, redefining your moral code, maybe even seeking a new dream or finding a new buddy. So they will also have the opportunity to gain a better coolness under fire score, which is how well you're doing while you're being shot at. but that could also lead to a decrease in your player's empathy score as they become hardened by the things they see and do. So that is the end of Section 2 on player characters. Section 3 we're going to look at next is skills and specialities. We'll go ahead and show you the 2-page view of that opening as well. So Section 3, again, like I said, skills and specialities, focuses on when and how to roll dice, as well as the skills and specialities that will determine which dice you will be rolling. Before you roll any dice, you will explain what it is your character is trying to accomplish and how, and you will then determine which skill and ability that action would actually utilize. The letter grade of the skill and ability in question then determines the 2 dice you will roll to try and succeed. So you're getting to roll 1 die for your skill and 1 die for your ability. You will then need to roll a 6 or higher on one of the 2 dice in order to succeed. So like I said earlier, it's obviously harder with a skill or ability that has a lower grade, which may only allow you to roll a d6. Your skills and abilities with higher grades may allow you to roll a d8, d10, or even a d12. And if you roll a d10 or a d12, and on those roll a 10 or higher, you actually will gain 2 successes. So the next few pages of this section describe in greater detail the 12 core skills, and then it finishes with the specialities of the game. Specialities typically will give you +1 modifiers in certain situations, or -1 modifiers in situations, depending on the situation and what particular gear you are utilizing for that role. Now we're getting into Section 4 on combat and damage. So Section 4, combat and damage, describes in detail how combat transpires in the game. First off, there are going to be heavy use of battle maps and combat tokens. They are greatly encouraged, which is why the box set comes with 16 modular battle maps, 4 scenario-specific battle maps, and 108 cardboard tokens. And again, Free League Publishing, as usual, has done their best to provide you with what you need. They don't suggest something and then leave it all to you. They give you the resources to help you as the referee to succeed. Combat begins by determining initiative, and that is utilizing the deck of initiative cards that come in the boxed set. Each person is randomly given one of the 10 cards, and this determines when they will get to go during a round of combat. It is possible, though, to exchange initiative cards with somebody who is not gone yet during a round, allowing them to go before you if you would rather do that. On your turn, you have the option of taking 1 slow action and 1 fast action, or 2 fast actions. We're going to jump over to page 56 here, showing you the list of slow actions, fast actions, and then even on page 57, a short section on free actions. Some examples of slow actions in the game: getting an item from your backpack. Again, it's very realistic that it would be difficult to take your backpack off, find something in your backpack, or pulling it from it. Making a melee attack, shooting a firearm, clearing the jam in a weapon, fire a heavy weapon, or provide first aid to maybe somebody who is incapacitated. So those are some of the slow actions. Fast actions, maybe just dropping your backpack, running, trying to shove somebody, aim your weapon, get on a bike, or maybe even drive a vehicle. Those are some fast actions that you may be able to take. And then free actions: drop to the ground, drop a held item, go from partial to full cover, or even just shout a few words. So those are some of the examples of the slow actions, fast actions, and free actions that you may be able to take during combat. And again, when it's your turn, you have the choice of taking 1 slow action and 1 fast action, or 2 fast actions. Initiative is definitely the easiest part of combat in Twilight 2000, as once initiative has been determined, things begin to get crunchy. There are loads of things to remember when in combat. Battle maps are made up of hexes, and hexes can be made up of 10 different types of terrain, And these different terrains all make adjustments to things such as visibility, ranged attacks, movement, cover, and infiltration. You can see here on the bottom of page 57, you see images of the different hexes that you may come across: pavement, field, shrubland, debris, forest, foliage, swamp, shallows, blocking, and indoors. Each of these things can modify different abilities or different things for you during the combat in the game. And again, if they do make modifications, then all of that does is, if you were rolling a d8 and you end up getting a -1 modifier to your roll, that would mean all of a sudden you're rolling a d6 instead of the d8. Or if you were to get a +1 modifier, you would go from a d8 to a d10. So it adjusts which die you would be rolling depending on that modification. So movement through the hexes can also require rolling dice depending on how far you want to move. Whether your character is standing or prone can adjust the roll of those who are attacking you. Even certain weapons must be held with 2 hands, or you will roll you will suffer a penalty to your roll. When damage is done or taken, you will roll a d6 for the hit location, and this determines exactly which part of the body has been damaged. If that area of the body is protected by cover or armor, then the damage is modified, possibly stopping damage altogether. And if you are ever incapacitated, the fastest way to recover is to have someone on the same hex as you provide you with medical aid. Otherwise, you just lie around for a full shift, which can be 5 to 10 hours before you finally recover a single point of damage. This section is made up of almost 30 pages, and the referee and the players are going to really want to go over it before entering their first combat, if they want to know all of their options and how things work. I'm just going to scroll through a few more pages here, just showing you, but again, 30 pages of information about how combat works and the way things work as you play this game. It's a lot of information. You'll see here on this page the different parts of the body once they're hit, rolling to see how injured you are, whether it's a lethal damage or not. You got to keep track of your stress and conditions as you play this game. So that is section 4, combat and damage. The next section is section 5, and that's weapons, vehicles, and gear. And that starts on page 89. So we'll go ahead and jump there, get the 2-page view of the art there. Section 5 is definitely the longest section of the book. So if you thought the 30 pages on combat was a lot, section 5, weapons, vehicles, and gear, is 40 pages long. So we'll go ahead and just kind of scroll through real quick here. But there are civilian vehicles, military vehicles, and there are weapons. Tons and tons and tons of weapons. So if you're somebody who really gets into guns and rocket launchers and grenades, this game might just be for you. And each one of these is broken down by the type of military that it was a part of. These weapons could be US made or Soviet made, Polish or Swedish, and the exact same thing can be said for all of the vehicles. So we'll go ahead and scroll through some of these vehicles here. You're going to see tanks and Humvees, again, made from the different countries, different information about each one. Tons and tons of information on these vehicles. And again, the gear, same thing, is broken down though into communication gear, weapons gear, observation, protective, medical. It's going to be broken down into all sorts of different things. There are even rules for repairing damaged gear and scavenging for parts and jerry-rigging items that are scarce. And the last part of this section is actually about your home base. It talks about how to find a base, the importance of mapping out your base, and the myriad ways of having a base, how it can affect you and your team depending on the different types types of facilities that that base contains. And then that leads us to the last section of the player's manual, and that is section 6 on travel. And it's the final section of the player's manual. Travel, like combat, is tracked on a hex map in this game. And also, like in combat, the hexes can have differing terrain, which will modify how it can be traversed. Each day of travel is broken down into 4 shifts of 6 hours. There's morning, day, evening, and night. And each shift, every party member will need to decide on what activity they will be participating in. If you have played other role-playing games, most of them, travel seems to just be hand-waved away, or it's not quite as important. And there are games where sometimes people try to come up with ways to make travel important. This is going to be probably one of the more detailed versions of travel you've seen in a game, and that's because a good portion of this game will take place during travel. So they've really thought it through, again, with the differing terrains, adjusting things, and then giving everybody things that they need to choose to do during the different shifts of the day. The available activities are as follows. You can march or drive. There's gathering, keeping watch, scrounging, foraging, hunting, fishing, making camp, cooking, resting, sleeping, and exploring. So that's a lot of different things, and during each shift, each person in the group is going to have to decide which of those things they're going to do in order to help make sure that the party succeeds in their traveling. The rest of this section of the book is spent further explaining each one of these activities. So it's going to go through each one of those activities, giving you paragraphs about how driving through different terrain or at night, the mishaps that can happen while you're doing your driving skill. It's going to break down keeping watch and scrounging and foraging for different items. Look at this list of items that you could be scrounging for and hopefully finding. All sorts of things, from alarm clocks to sports jerseys to a yellowed copy of Twilight 2000 RPG, the first edition, shows up in this list. But there's so many different things that are going to be talked about in the hunting section. Making camp is incredibly important. So that is discussed on throughout the rest of this book, all the way up until page 149 and 150 of this 154-page player's manual. And that is the end of the player's manual. So let's go ahead and take it back to the front cover of the book so we can see the art again. Go back to that single page view. But everybody, this game, I know it sounds like a lot because it is a lot, but this game, to me personally, looks amazing. I've never played a game that requires as much tracking of things as I think this game does, but I'm still very interested in running it and playing it. I believe that with the right group of players, I could fall in love with this game and the stories it has the potential of creating. As always, Free League Publishing has crafted a beautiful box set with high-quality components matched with a very well-written RPG. And that, everyone, is my review of Twilight 2000's Player's Manual by Free League Publishing. Again, this is just one of the books in the Twilight 2000 boxed core set. My next video will be a review of that other book, and that is known as the Twilight 2000 Referee's Manual. Well, this has been Peter with Tabletop Gaming Guild, and if you liked this video or found it useful, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel for more great gaming content. You can also check out our website, tabletopgamingguild.com, where you can listen to our podcast and more. If you're interested in checking out this game, you can always go to freeleaguepublishing.com and take a look at it. Again, like I said, it sells for just under $55. And everybody, until we talk again, keep on playing games.